Should be interesting right now. Ohio State head coach Urban Meyer's up.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a great year, a tough couple of days, but I'm going to focus on the positives. Positives created by tremendous momentum from last year's team to an excellent recruiting class, positive spring practice, and one of the best academic performances that in recent history at Ohio State. A strong APR and a good bunch of guys that are, for the majority, are doing the right things, getting themselves ready for the 13th season. The leadership was probably the biggest. I spoke of this quite often about last year's outfit, and it was something that I didn't anticipate and I underestimated, that throughout adversity that we experienced throughout the year, 2 overtime wins or 2 overtime games, some injuries where we had to move some position guys, and the leadership was incredible. One of the most refreshing years I've been around, or groups I've been around. This year's team has high expectations, riding off the coattails of what those kids did last year. And it's very simple that if we get tremendous leadership from our coaching staff, but most importantly our players, then we'll have a successful, I feel very strongly about this group having a successful season. On offense, we return a bunch of experience, including one of the best quarterbacks in America, Braxton Miller, has really grown as a quarterback, has grown as a leader. A very humble young man that I have a lot of respect for. Be disappointed if our offense line certainly isn't one of the best in the Big Ten. I think there are some very good offense lines in the Big Ten, and Ohio State should be right near the top with those other great lines. Receivers, probably the one area that we were weakest at last year, and I think this year, with the injection of some speed in the recruiting class and also development of the guys we have, that I'm really counting on not to become one of the strengths of our offense. The two guys that really developed throughout the year last year are 2 very good tight ends in Hireman and Vanette, and we're have not traditionally been known as a 2 tight end offense. However, with these 2 talented players, you're going to see some 12 personnel, which they're 2 guys. We have to find a way to get them on the field at the same time. We have depth at tailback, and offensively, I feel very strong about where we could be if we have a solid training camp. Defense is where the issues are. We lost our entire front 7. I believe we recruited well. Mike Vrabel has done a very good job developing a little bit of esprit de corps with our defensive line. Our linebackers, Noah Spence and Adolphus Washington are 2 guys that, if they continue to develop, could become Big Ten candidate players as they continue in their journey in their career. Inside, you have Mike Bennett and Joe Hale are 2 guys that have talent and have really come on, and we're going to try to get a little bit of rotation in there, which you need to have if you have a quality defensive line. Linebacker, Curtis Grant has taken over, had an excellent spring. A little bit disappointing last year, but he's become a leader, like you need your Mike linebacker to be, and then has really performed very well in spring practice. Ryan Shazier was very average as we started the season and became one of the best linebackers in the country a year ago as the season concluded, so I'm very positive about that. We don't have much depth, and we'll have to count on some freshmen to provide some instant depth at that spot. Josh Perry's a Sam linebacker, and then also a nickel that's really the same position will be Tyvis Powell. And those guys are inexperienced but very talented and right on target. And I think we'll have one of the better secondaries as well in the Big Ten. So it's anxious to get going. Training camp is close, and I think every body in Columbus, Ohio and Ohio State is very anxious to see what the 13 Buckeyes have in order. So I'll certainly answer any questions for you.
We have our first question here in the back left, and then we'll come to the front left, stage left.
Urban.
Where is it?
In the back.
Right here, Urban. Braxton Miller said earlier today that you guys got some good news concerning Carlos Hyde. How confident are you that he'll return to the team?
Well, I didn't receive the good news. I guess I'm not a big social media guy, so I don't. We just have to evaluate the facts, and once I evaluate the facts, then we'll make some decisions.
Next question's out here front, stage left.
Last year, obviously, with the sanctions, you knew that you couldn't play for a championship. How different is it this year knowing that all opportunities are available for you guys?
Well, Bill, thanks. I think last year I had I spent all summer worrying about how to approach that if that happened. Where there was questions about why no bowl game, why no championship, and if you have a good group of leaders, that never comes up. You're going to go try to play the game and try to win the game. So I'm hoping, we're taking the same approach. There's been zero conversation about anything other than competing for a championship in November, which we were able to do last year. We were able to compete for the Leaders Division Championship a year ago. So that's the only conversation we have, and we try to make training camp so focused and really difficult that the focus is on getting to the next day. If you do that, then that's really all you can worry about. We're certainly not worried about November, December, or anything past that.
Next question, we've got Teddy here in the front stage left. Just behind you, one row back.
Hey, Coach, what was the process where Ohio State did end up either turning in Florida or alleging there was some illegal contact? Who was involved with that? How did it shake down?
Yeah, I found that out after the fact, that our compliance office received or forwarded an article, and from what I understand after the fact, that the article was not the only one that was sent. It was about some conversation with a bump or something like that. So I'm not sure how that all became a major story, and there was certainly no intent to go after Florida. So that's all I can tell you.
Next question, front left here.
Tim May, Columbus Dispatch. Urban, like you said, the past couple of days have been kind of tough on you. I got a text message today from a player of yours that used to play with you at Florida, talked about the leadership and stuff you had for him and stuff. Obviously at Ohio State, you have the sign on the wall talking about doing things the right way. You talk to these players about it all the time. Was the last couple of days extremely disappointing to you, the way some of the things turned out? Just talk just a little bit about how you worked to rectify that a little bit.
Yeah, it was very tough. In the last 12 months, we've had 3 legal issues, and it all happened in 3 days, I think, or 3 or 4 days. And we had 2 freshmen that have been with us, I think, just over 3 weeks, make 2 stupid decisions that were dealt with very firmly. One's been sent home, one lost a scholarship, and one of them was a 17-year-old using a fake ID, and it drives you insane that you have to deal with that nonsense. But that's part of the issue. We had an upperclassman that I'm still receiving information about. My concern is, is just I don't want to disrupt this team. I think, and I talk to them all the time about it, we have an incredible amount of resources and time spent into educating players on how to do the right thing at the right time. And when a mistake happens or something happens, you have to react and get it done. So I'm disappointed. I think furious might have been the word that would best describe when I first got the phone call, because like I said, for 12 months, it's been really, really good. And I don't want a disruption for this team. These guys work too hard, and to have a couple knuckleheads make some decisions that reflect the entire program, that's not, I guess it's part of the deal. It's something that bothers me, bothers our staff, and work very hard to avoid with our players.
Next question will be all the way here in the back stage left, and then we'll come back to the front here on the aisle.
Coach in the back on the left, 2-part question for you, all the way back here. Can you talk about the conversation you had with Barry Alvarez when he called you to ask about Gary Anderson, and can you talk a little bit about the relationship that you and Gary have built over several years?
Well, Gary Anderson, first of all, I have great respect for Coach Alvarez for many, many years, and I was honored when he asked me for my opinion. And Gary Anderson, as a head coach, I think it's now the 12th year, I've made some very, very important hires in my career, and some guys have gone on to be very successful head coaches. I think we've had 11 guys since they've been on our coaching staff since, 2001. But Gary, I'd put in one of the top 2-3 hires I've ever made at the recommendation of Utah's head coach, Kyle Winningham. He made a direct impact in our program, and I couldn't be more proud of who he is as a person, and I think he's at the right place, a great school with a great athletic director, and really proud of Gary Anderson.
Come down here on the aisle, stage left.
Urban, is there anything more that you or your coaching staff could have done to prevent the issues you have had recently with the team? And ultimately, how much responsibility do you think is fair to be placed on a head coach when players do run afoul of things?
I think you always can do more. That's something that you wake up every day with. Obviously when you're dealing with 2 freshmen, they have the opportunity to go through a lot of the education, a lot of things that we expect our coaches. The one difficult thing about when freshmen show up, coaches usually leave on vacation, and that's tough. And that's something that I'm going to reevaluate, whether I keep some coaches back, and try to break that up a little bit. I really thought about that, because that was really disappointing to have two young people that I really don't even know yet to do stupid things like that, and cause for me to be discussing those two freshmen right here, kind of, that's not right. For an upperclassman, I'm very extremely disappointed in the third situation we're dealing with, and it'll be dealt with in a very serious manner. But once again, I'm getting all these different conflicting stories, so I just got to wait to get the facts and then react. But disruption is the biggest thing that bothers me. You asked a question about the responsibility of a head coach. I think the head coach needs to set a standard, needs to direct, guide, mentor, push, and direct these guys. Ultimately, though, every person is ultimately held accountable for their decisions they make. So we just got to continue to, and I'm continuing to evaluate all the things we do. That seems to be a big topic, and I'm looking. I watch very closely when I have a guy that watches if a certain situation takes place across the country. I want to make sure our punishment is harder than any discipline that's out there. And that's maybe where I changed over the years. Even if it's a first-time offense from a freshman, I want to make sure that we're setting the tone.
We have 3 questions queued up. We'll start over here on the right, then in the middle on stage right, and then we'll go over all the way on the left.
Coach, prior to being hired at Ohio State, did they discuss with you the off-the-field issues from your players in Florida?
Oh, we did. We discussed them, and what was our plan, what's our style of discipline, what are we trying to get done, and had a good conversation about it.
We'll come over here in the middle. Raise your hand. You had the question there. Yeah.
Urban, you are not, as you just mentioned, you're not the only coach dealing with players who get in trouble. You seem to take by far the most criticism, though, of any coach in the country involving disciplinary issues. Do you have any ideas as to why that is, and does it bother you, the criticism from media, fans, over this issue?
I'm a human, so it does. I don't read. I don't really get involved with following stuff, because I think people need to get facts before they start, just making accusations and those type of things. But I'm human, and I think that that is something that I'm constantly evaluating and making sure we are doing the right thing. But at the end of the day, you got to feel in your heart you're doing the right thing, that we're in a people business, and we have to do what's right by those people. And there's never been one time that I thought that we did wrong by that person. Now, sometimes I sit back and evaluate, do we give too many second chances? That seems to be a big key, and that's something I'm going to continue to evaluate. I treat those players like they're our own, like our own children. We have high expectations for them. If one of your children has an issue, that you try to educate, correct, discipline, and push them in the right direction as hard as you possibly can. And when I see some of the situations where some of these players are from, for me to walk away from that player has always been very, very difficult to do. So that's where we're at.
Time for a couple more. We'll start with the gentleman standing here, stage left.
Coach, it was reported that you sent a text message saying the criticism of you or your assistant coaches at Florida regarding Aaron Hernandez was wrong and irresponsible. If you could, for that particular situation regarding Hernandez, why do you think that criticism is wrong and irresponsible?
Well, I'm going to let you guys figure out if you think it's right or wrong. I can't put what's in your heart or in your mind. The only reason I sent that text, I was getting ready to leave for vacation. There was inaccurate information being sent out throughout the, some people sent me text messages about just inaccurate information. So that's the only reason that I sent that out, and that I sent it to a couple people that I know and said this is, and I'm not sure I'm allowed to say what the actual truth was because there's investigations going on, but that was 4 years ago. A player played for us. Our staff did it, as they do with all players. I've had incredible coaches, incredible players, and I think the focus, a lot of times when it's get taken away from those great players who are great people and great coaches on my staff, it just bothers you a little bit, but you got to move on, and we certainly have.
We have time for 2 more. We're going to go to the back here, stage right, and then we'll finish up down here in the front.
Urban, when it comes to off-the-field issues and player discipline, how do you view your own reputation?
How do I view my own reputation? I don't view my own reputation. I guess the reputation is what others think of you. I worry more about our team, about our players. You know, I'm 49 years old, been doing this for a long time, so I'm really good with. That doesn't mean I don't. I ask our players every year to self-evaluate. We had a big study about it this year. When I started going through my mind and doing some research on my own, that out of every three recruits across the country that come down the aisle of your team meeting room, one gets maximized, one usually either disappears or doesn't make it, and then one's very average. And so I had our players self-evaluate, and our coaching staff's on a mission through things like job fair and real life Wednesdays and these other workshops, leadership workshops, to make sure with all the powerful people and resources at universities that these kids should be getting as much education, as much direction as possible. So I know that's a long answer, but I'm not, I can't control. I think I tried to do that once, it didn't work out very well. So I'm not going to control what people think about myself or our program.
Final question is down here, stage left.
Coach, you've talked repeatedly about the importance of the strong leadership that you have with last year's team. Who are some of the specific players that you're looking for to step up and fill some of that, fill some of those gaps from last year?
That's going to be the difference. And as the older I get, the better teams I've been around over these last decade of football. The one comment, it wasn't the style of offense, it wasn't the style of defense, it wasn't the height, weight, size, how high you jump, how fast you run. It's the leadership within the program. The 06 team with a guy like Brandon Saller is one of the best leaders I've ever been around. And you go right through the teams the last years. And so I'm counting our quarterback has to become that great leader. I think he was pretty good. I think he was okay last year by the time the season started winding down. But our offensive line is without question the heart and soul of our team. You have Jack Muort, Norwell Hall, and Corey Lindsley, and those guys are strong leaders. They're the voice, they're the face of our program, which is if you're going to start somewhere, it's got to be your quarterback and your offensive line. Where it's got to improve is on defense, where you lost Simon and you lost Boren and Curtis Grant and Shazier. You have to have a strong, a little bit like baseball, you have to be strong down the middle. Our two safeties are going to be tremendous leaders for us, Christian Bryant and C.J. Barnett. So we spent a lot of time. This last, I think it's been about 9-10 weeks, we've had leadership class for 19 players on our team. And we've had an outside group come in and work with us, our strength coach, myself, and it's been one of the most profound experiences that I've been around as far as teaching these guys a systematic approach to teaching leadership, which we've always tried to teach it. It has never been this systematic.
Thanks very much, Coach.
Thank you.
That's it for Urban Meyer. Derek Rackley and Mike Hall here. What was interesting is over that 16-minute span, I think I counted only one question that was about the 2013 Ohio State football team. Everything else was about off-the-field stuff, which is expected because of what's happened in the last few weeks, but also surprising because this is a national championship contending team.
You know, you and I were just chatting before we came here, is that the fact that it could have been at some point during the questions he could have said, you know what, I'm here to talk about the 2013 Buckeyes, which you really expected that from a coach, especially at this time of the year. We're getting ready to start training camp, but he didn't do that. In my opinion, I thought it was a very professional approach by him to answer all these questions, be very calm, cool, and collected. And he gave the media really his side of the story. Didn't say a whole lot, said that there's still a lot of investigation going on before I make the final decisions, but he faced all those questions and didn't give us the coach speak and say, let's get back to the football.
Thought it was interesting, too. He was asked about Carlos Hyde, of course, the star player who had a chance to have a great season this upcoming year. It was first reported he was dismissed, then it was he's been suspended on the team. It was interesting what Urban said. He said he's going to evaluate the facts and then make the decisions, but I also found it interesting he only referred to him as an upperclassman. Didn't mention Carlos Hyde by name.